move to submit the meetings of 8/6.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a first and a second on the meeting minutes to approve the meeting minutes for August 6th. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, Carol, thank you. Let's get on to the minutes of September the 3rd. I'm guessing you all saw those as well as part of the packet. I'd entertain a motion for those as well.
I'll make the motion that we accept those minutes as printed.
I'll second that motion to accept the minutes.
John? Any further discussion on the minutes, accepting the minutes as written for September the 3rd? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, Carol.
There's 2 chairs back there. There's 2 chairs back there. Do you want these chairs? Do you need chairs? I don't know, do you probably need chairs? Yes, but you have 2 chairs here. Next to
Okay.
them and Woody.
The next thing on our agenda is a discussion of our site visits conducted on the 21st of September. We were at Eric and Elaine Weston's first, started at 8 o'clock in the pouring rain. So for that, I thank every one of the board members because you were all present with your wet weather gear on. Mr. Harrison, can I start with you? Any comments?
The site was, the site was clean and up to date. Piles were stacked neatly, and everything looked fine.
Excellent. Mr. Ward?
Generally, yes. I did want to make note, the work is slowed down, but is progressing. The bypass canal has begun, which will make a huge environmental protection measure. Otherwise, I'm good with that visit.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mason?
Since our last visit, I'll take note that the cranberry bog was planted. The large pile of raw bank sand that was there prior was replaced with a process pile of material. Our understanding is it's going out for as road material for a job that's behind schedule, but it still plans to go forward. It's just a little bit behind schedule, and that pile of process material will get utilized. The banking had been stabilized through some weather, so I have good confidence there that the wash-off isn't going to be an issue. The water hole expansion and canal had just been all staked off with elevation ribbons, so it gave us a good visual of the extent of the water hole and the canal that feeds over to service the bogs. So progress had slowed, but there had been quite a bit of progress since our last visit. The site is clean like it has been from the beginning. We asked Eric, who was present at the visit, if there were any issues with neighbors pertaining to the project, and there had been none at all. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Roger?
I have nothing to add to John's copious notes.
Perfect. Judy?
And I agree, John did a great narrative of what the site looked like. I've never been there before. He explained it pretty much to a T.
Thank you. And I agree with John as well, and Mr. Ward and Mr. Harrison. I think everything looked good. It was torrential. We were there for about 15 or 20 minutes. And again, everything looked good to obviously all of us. The next one we went to was about 20 minutes later. After about 8:30 we got there. It's a little bit of a ride through the woods to Van Johnson. Judy, would you like to start here?
Again, like Scott said, it was pouring out, and it was navigating through the pouring rain and not knowing where you were going. This was my first site visit to permit 9258. Let me see. Permit 92.
92,
And
yep.
is in the process of putting the bank back together. He still has to move some boulders around and do some seeding. And he was hoping to get that done, which he knows by the end of the year, because he has to close out the project.
Roger?
Yeah, he definitely made progress since we were there last on the embankment and slopes, but he's doing the job on his own, and it's definitely going slower than I think he'd like and we'd like. But he did state that by year end, he thinks he can close it out with as-built. Just as a note, there hasn't been any trucking coming out of there for quite some time. It's not, it's just a matter of finalizing the slopes and getting the land back together.
John?
Really don't have anything to add to Judy and Roger's analysis.
Mr. Ward?
Really not, and nothing to add. It's mainly needs to be completed for mainly safety reasons around the backside of the water hole, but it's not unsafe as it is. So anyway, I'm good with that.
Mr. Harrison?
We had notified the applicant that he needed a as-built and a closure report by the end of the year, beginning of 2025.
Thank you very much. And that, you're stealing my thunder, because that's where I was going to end with, is we in fact did spend a substantial amount of time chatting about pit closure with Mr. Johnson. He's agreed that once everything is done, by the end of the year, he will have a pit closure form and an as-built drawn up. Everything will be tidied up at that point. He'll come in, he'll ask to have it closed, we'll go out for a site visit, we'll suspend that to the next meeting, and we'll go from there so we can actually see progress and such on the ground. But that will be prior to the end of the calendar year 2024. He has another permit on our sheet that is inactive. He's leaving it as a agricultural site for himself. He's also been instructed to get that one closed out with an as-built as well, even though we did not specifically stop at that site and look at it with him. Van is very well aware of what's happening, and he's been working his way towards getting it squared away, which is great. All the site visit logs, if we can give these to Carol before we go home today, that would be great. Anybody have anything else from the board on our site visits? Okay. So, we've got a couple of new applications in front of us. Obviously, we've got two public hearings tonight. I'd like to set the next site visit for those sites, should the board agree, for this Saturday, October the 5th. All of you guys here are residents of the town. You know it's cranberry season. You're looking at cranberry growers in front of you. Columbus Day weekend is the middle of the month, and then it gets busy with late season fruit. October 5th at 8 o'clock. I'm going to suggest we start at the AD Makepeace site when we get to that point, but I'm going to suggest we start there at the new application site. So we will not be visiting any current permits. We'll be looking to review plans and such like that with the applicants on Saturday the 5th. Kevin, is that going to work for you?
Sure. Yep.
Love it if you're there. That would be perfect. Is everybody good with October the 5th, board? Excellent.
Just
So-
a reminder, Mr. Chair, I'll be recusing myself from that ADM site visit, and I'll be on standby for a text message to meet you at the next site.
Well, I think Roger will give you that because I've got to recuse myself from the second one.
Thank you.
So we'll go to the first one at ADM, and then you can pick up after I've vacated on the 5th. So we'll start at 8 o'clock at the AD Makepeace site, and I see Mr. Madden in the audience. He's going to talk to us, and he'll give us a good spot to meet when we get to talking about it. Okay. So the next meeting date is, right now, it'll be the first Tuesday of the month of November, which is the 5th. Seems like everybody's been able to make it here for 3 o'clock. I haven't heard what the select board is doing, which is why we're meeting at 3 o'clock today. The select board is meeting at 6 tonight, so in order to get all of you guys in a seat, hopefully, see a few of you having to stand in the back, which I apologize for. We wanted to keep it up here, audio visuals a little bit better. So I think the 3 o'clock on November the 5th, if you guys are all good with that, works for me. Okay?
Perfect.
Excellent. Amy, if you can put that in your book and please be here and help us out. Okay. All right, now for the fun stuff. I had cause to go back and read our town bylaws. I've passed out copies of the new bylaws, which are on the town clerk's website for you guys to see. It's the codified final version on the town clerk's website. It's very much cleaner than it was before. I've handed out a copy of the earth removal bylaws to all of you at the table. These are the new bylaws that they haven't changed, but these are exactly the wording we'll go through. There is some consortium, I can't remember the name, that's helped the town out with putting everything together. Do you know the name of that group?
General code.
General Code, thank you so much. So General Code has got to a point where they have codified all the town bylaws in the town of Carver. So this 136-1 all the way through, where are we? The 136-12 is what we operate under. There is one change here, which is the exemption, section E. I've spoken at length with the town clerk about that. It is not in the bylaw, so that is now gone. So just for all your information and those for you at home and in the audience, if there is a planning board permit issued, if there is a zoning board permit issued that requires earth removal, they are not exempt. So that needs to come in front of us once it meets the criteria of this bylaw. So, does any of the board have any questions about that?
How did it get in?
I don't know.
How did it make it into the bylaws?
That was past history well before me. That's what I know. So, we have a new codified bylaw done by General Code. It is correct, and it's what we're gonna operate under. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Woods, I saw you here somewhere. At long last, we get to talk to operations and maintenance about an invoice. I certainly apologize for our delay.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
You guys do such a wonderful job for us. The earth removal funds are earmarked for road repair. And the last thing I want to do is stifle anybody from doing their job to keep the roads safe.
Okay.
If you could give us a quick overview, nothing in depth, just quick overview of what you've got on the invoice here, that'd be great.
Sure. So the funding I'm asking for is funding for center line and fog line painting throughout town for $80,000. Does everybody have a copy of this? Because I made some copies if you don't.
I passed it all out.
Okay.
There you go.
Drainage improvements at the intersection of Center Street and Wenham Road for $20,000. That will help with road safety, and also it's washing out a bog road and bog ditches. And the last thing I have is a hot box for hot mix patching around town. What that allows us to do is purchase hot asphalt, put it in the hot box, and it keeps it warm, so we're able to use all the asphalt right down to the last stone. Where if not, if it's in the back of a truck, after an hour or so of work, it starts getting hard, and you end up throwing a lot of it away. So those are the only three things I have on the list right now.
It's the board's pleasure on how you want to handle this. If you want to go line by line, if you want to go invoice in totality, it's up to you guys. The one thing I will tell you is I have received a number before the question comes up of what we have in our account. And as of the 9th of September this year, there was $211,231.91 in the account. Okay? What you're looking at an invoice for here in totality is $128,685.
So is the process that we make a motion to approve and second, and then we ask questions, or should we ask questions, or what is the?
I'd like to
Pleasure.
make a motion and get a second, then have open discussion about it.
Let me make a motion to, to approve the three items listed here. Center and fog line painting, drainage improvements at Center and Wenham, and hot box equipment for hot mix patching for the total of $128,685.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second for discussion purposes at least?
I'll second that.
Judy wants a second. Excellent. Any discussion?
Are these projects that you've done already or about to do?
The center line and fog line painting is complete. The other two are not.
So this is really allocation, so it's already been paid for?
It has not been paid for yet, no.
I got you,
It has not
it's been done?
No.
Okay.
Are the drainage improvements to be done in-house or by an outside contractor?
Outside contractor.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on
And-
2 more quotes, but that's the price range. It's not going
Yeah.
to be more than that.
And I'll just note, in front of us here, we have 3 different prices for the piece of equipment. It's nice to see the town going through the process to buy it for a respectable, responsible price. So all this stuff is in line with what we've had the earth removal funds earmarked for, and it's exactly what they should be spent for. So the longevity of a hot box piece of equipment like this,
20 years probably,
cool.
give or take.
Nice. Thank you.
The one we're using now is from 1968.
That was my next. So you do have one you're using now.
We do.
and
It
this will
doesn't work.
replace
It's
it.
broken now and can't
Yeah.
find parts for it.
Yeah. Are you guys outsourcing this type of work now? Will this save the town money in the long run by
In
doing
the
it
long run, it will
in-house and-
save time. Like I said, when the hot box is being used, the asphalt stays warm all day. So we can take lunch break, come back, and the asphalt's still warm, and we can use it all up. Otherwise, it's in the back of a 1-ton dump truck. After an hour or so, it starts getting cold, hard to use, and you end up throwing some of it away. So it is a waste, but in the long run, it will save the town money, yes.
Thank you. Anybody else for Mr. Woods? Any questions?
No.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the invoice of $128,685 for operations and maintenance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. John, thank you for your patience. I
Thank
really,
you.
really appreciate it.
It was worth the wait.
And thank you for the work you guys do. It's amazing.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
John.
for coming in. That was helpful.
I've been told that Agent Ford doesn't have anything to add today.
That's correct.
Okay, so that was a quick report. Probably the quickest we're ever going to see from you again.
Might be.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so now we're on to the fun stuff here, everybody. Let's open the public hearing for the AD Makepeace Cranberry Company, LLC, for a permit of earth removal located off Federal Road on map 131, lots 1 and 2, and 1 and 3. Mr. Madden, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to take this moment to recuse myself.
Thank you very much. And what I'll ask, John, is either you go outside, we'll close the doors, or you can just go downstairs, whatever. We'll come get you when it's time.
I'll be out in the hallway.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of the Makepeace Company and the earth removal permit application that's before you this afternoon.
This is Mike McVeigh from AD Makepeace Company.
Good afternoon to the both of you.
Good afternoon.
I guess the first order of business may be the butter notifications.
Carol, you want to grab the green cards from Mr. Madden?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They're all in order with
Thank you.
with the certified butters list and what have you. Okay, this project site is, well, let's put it this way, we applied to the town of Carver under the earth removal regulations for the purpose of removing some earth from the site for the purpose of constructing a supplemental water supply.
Carol, do you have plans for all of us? Thank you.
Would you like half-size plans? I do have them with me. And
I'd like a set of those. but-
Yeah, well, if you've gone through the trouble of printing them,
I did.
by God, we'll take them.
And as far as the project narrative, I supplied a project narrative with the original application. I made one small correction, one of the sections under the phasing. We referred to a plan that wasn't part of the plan set, so I just narrowed it down to a little bit, so I did that as well, so I have.
I'll pass them up.
That for you as well. We just take one. I have. And these half-size plans are identical to the plan set that I have on the presentation board.
You guys might have to share something.
Thank you very much.
John doesn't need one.
John does not need one.
Thank you.
Back in September
Yeah.
9th of 2024, we supplied the town of Carver with an earth removal application submitted on behalf of the 80 Makepeace Company to remove material from the subject site. This project that we presented to the Earth Removal Committee is to develop a supplemental water supply on acreage that's owned by the company. The water supply will be not only used by the company, but it will also be made available to others that may become in need at certain times of the year during certain seasons. You know, if you take a big picture view of the water supplies in general of this area, there are pretty much quite a bit of what we consider stump swamps or stump swamp type of arrangements, old impoundments and what have you. Vegetation is, quite
Thank you.
quite dense in them. The capacity of a lot of those water supplies has been greatly reduced. And the quality of the water, while good, it isn't as good as it could be with a new water supply reservoir. So for the longevity of the water supply, we looked at maintenance of the existing pond that was there and what might be required to restore it, to clean it out and whatever. And there just seemed to be too many environmental matters that would create great challenge for the company and great challenge to physically carry out the work in an overgrown type of stump swamp. This Golden Field Pond, it is a smaller pond. It has a pretty thick and dense bordering vegetated wetland that envelopes it or around its complete perimeter. And there's also some rare endangered species habitat that extends about 100 feet out from the shoreline. So, when you examine all those constraints that exist with the existing water supply, how it actually flows off the site, how you get the water from A to B, didn't really make a tremendous amount of sense to try to, restore and renew that, particularly given the size. It's very small. 60 acres of newly renovated Cranberry Bog acreage in that Smith Hammond Cranberry Bog system has recently been completed by the company. So we think that the implementation of a better and a more suitable and a very reliable water supply would be very beneficial and would be more essential to proper crop management, crop growth. So what we did is we prepared this earth removal application and submitted it to the town as a project that would be used for agriculture. As part of our application, we completed the application, but I also included a narrative, a little bit more in detail than what your regulations require. But I thought it would be helpful to the earth removal committee to, get a pretty solid understanding of the site and what have you, at least in narrative form. Then when we go out into the field, we can actually field truth, the comments and the information that's prepared in that report with the actual field conditions that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Well, right now we're going to talk about it. So essentially, this project is lot 1-3 and 1-2 on map 132 of the town, or 31 rather, of the town of Carver assessor's records. It's comprised of 123 plus acres on one lot and 302 on another. Essentially, it's 426 acres in total. And the entire land is that of cranberry bogs, water supplies, ponds, wetlands, and forested upland. Portion of lot 1-3, which on the aerial photograph is this portion of the site here. It indicates the 60 acres of cranberry bog that had recently been updated, renovated, updated, replanted. So that's the acreage that we're primarily concerned with on this site. The cranberry acreage, it's all located in the residential agricultural zoning district. It consists totally of cranberry-related land, and as I previously stated, it's 426 plus acres in total. The area in which the pond is proposed is currently zoned as residential agricultural, requires a minimum of 60,000 square feet with 150 feet of continuous frontage. The continuous frontage that occurs is on Federal Road. Federal Road extends essentially north and south. It essentially runs north and south and is the easterly most border of the property. The permitted uses in that zoning district are residential type uses. Other uses are permitted by special permit with the zoning board and what have you. Agriculture, which is the current use on the site.
And I'm going to apologize in advance. Area 58, I don't know if you can help us with that at all.
I don't think the microphone is essentially
It's for the tape, if you will, right?
it's not for the room, just
No.
the sound system.
Okay,
Want to take that one?
it's not going to help.
So there's no microphone, so people can't hear what he's saying.
It's more for the TV, if you will.
If it's a public hearing, they should be able to hear what he's saying.
I am sorry, the only thing I can do is ask Mr. Madden to speak up. This is the room we have.
Well, use microphone.
I think he just said that they don't go through the speaker system.
So the public can't hear the public hearing. Who can't hear?
So what,
Can we turn off the air conditioner?
I don't think you're gonna wanna do that. There's a lot of people in here. So let's be mindful of the comfort of others around us. And I'm gonna ask our applicant to speak up a little bit. And maybe
Maybe repeat everything he already said.
we're not doing that.
Nobody could hear what
We're not doing that. And you'll have plenty of time later on to hear it all again. This is a cursory scenario opening of it. The board is learning of it for the very first time from the applicant.
We already gave a permit for this in 2020. What do you
So
mean?
I'm just, please bear with me. We're hearing this application for the first time from the applicant. So,
That's not
Mr. Madden, if you can raise your voice if you could, that would be great.
Yes, I'll do the best I can to speak a little louder for the
Thank you very
benefit
much.
of the people attending the meeting. Sure. Apologize for being a little too quiet. So in any event, we were talking about the permitted right permitted uses that are allowed within the residential agricultural area, agricultural being one of them. The project is also located in an overlay district. It's in the Water Resource Protection Overlay District as well, where a use such as this is allowed in that overlay district. In fact, the provisions of the Water Resource Protection District do not apply to land in agricultural use or land being constructed for agricultural use. That's directly in the zoning bylaw of the town. The soils on the site that we have identified, they're chiefly that of Carver coarse sands, and we determined that through the USGS Plymouth County Soil Survey. They're Carver coarse sands. This type of soil occurs consistently throughout Carver and in the pitted and dissected outwash plain of southeastern Massachusetts. The soil doesn't retain a lot of nutrients. It does not retain a lot of moisture for plant growth. As far as the water reservoir is concerned that we have designed, we reviewed the USGS report entitled The Geohydrology and Simulated Groundwater Flow Plymouth Carver Aquifer in Southeastern Mass. It's report 90-4204. It contains 2 plates within it. One of them indicates the altitude of the water table. That's the groundwater elevation through the area of the site. The altitude of the water table, groundwater table that is, in the area of the proposed reservoir is elevation 75. It also provides the groundwater contours that show which way that groundwater flows within the aquifer, and it's in general it's in a southeast direction on the plan. I don't think I have that noted on the plan, but in the document, in the handout, the narrative, there's an excerpt from that plan that shows the groundwater contours and monitoring wells. To the west of the site, there's a residential subdivision. It's about 650 feet west of where the pond will be excavated. It's the Deer Hill subdivision. We consulted with the Board of Health. We examined the domestic drinking water well boring logs and what have you that are on file with the Board of Health to indicate the depth of the well, the depth that they encountered groundwater, for the purpose of ensuring that our design blended well with the domestic water wells of the neighboring community. So essentially those wells in general, it's kind of interesting that they were all very, very similar in nature as far as depth in what have you. And I guess, depending upon how they would have constructed that subdivision, they might have all been put in together in a series of weeks or months for that matter. But in any event, the bottoms of the wells were ranged from elevation 63 to elevation 58. The drawings that we provided indicate each well on the plans with the well data adjacent to the well. The wells are in the rear of the property, and the well data, which is on the plan set, is right next to it. The elevations of those wells are lower than that of the bottom of the pond. So in the event we were able to utilize every foot of water in the bottom of the pond, there would still be sufficient depth on the well screen of the abutting properties that it would not cause an adverse impact to those wells. The project as a whole is not likely to cause an adverse impact to the wells on the site. The parcel does contain a fair number of wetlands. We had our wetlands consultant, Brad Holmes from ECR, delineate all the wetland resource areas around the perimeter of the pond. We went out into the field and located each and every one of the flags that were placed out there by the botanist and put this on the drawing. So we established our footprint of area that we could work that would be adjacent to or outside of those wetland resource areas. So in this particular instance, when we look at where Golden Field Pond is, which is to the east of the proposed reservoir, you see we have a couple of wetland systems that are to the north. We have some that are to the south and west. We have the perimeter of the wetland that's associated with the Golden Field Pond. So we delineated all those, and we found our area that we could work in. And so to be out of the jurisdiction of conservation, we established a 125-foot setback distance from those wetland resource areas that we delineated for the limits of our project area. We wanted to take a little bit more than just the 100-foot buffer zone, which is also protectable under the Wetlands Protection Act, but we wanted to be outside that. We had a little bit of land to work with here, so we thought it was prudent to do that. And that's what is represented by the design, is that we're outside of that 100-foot buffer zone by a fair amount. Let's see. There's also an area that extends 100 feet from Golden Field Pond that's mapped as Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program as estimated priority habitat. So within that 125-foot no activity zone, as we call it on the plan, or the no work zone, falls that very endangered species zone. So that's one of the things that I talked about when we started to investigate what we might be able to do to renovate that pond or to maintain it, which we're able to do under the agricultural regulations. We just felt that it would be very cumbersome to deal with that and to deal with natural heritage and what have you. So instead of that, we decided to move our project away from those boundaries and work solely within the upland area of the site. There are no activities intended to occur within 125 feet of the wetlands that are delineated on the property. As far as the water supply reservoir that we're proposing, it's 20.4 acres of surface water, and it's to serve as water supply for cranberries. As you note on the plan, we have established the surface water elevation based on our groundwater contour map. We're showing it as at elevation 75. We're showing a 15-foot excavation, put the bottom of the reservoir at elevation 60. And that's what's noted on the plan. As far as the total volume, the total surface area, it was 20.4 acres, and at those dimensions. So that's what we're looking to do with respect to the pond. It is a supplemental water supply. So what we would intend to do, that in the event that that water needs to be used to supplement existing water supplies of Makepeace, or even a downgrading grower that may be in need, we're able to flow the water out of the reservoir by pumping. We would have to bring a tractor-mounted pump in to move that water out. There's no permanent pump designed to be installed at this time at this reservoir. So it's solely going to be a supplemental water supply. And with that newly created acreage, we think that that's going to be very beneficial and helpful for those cultivation practices. As far as the earth removal associated with constructing the pond is concerned, your general bylaw, Article 136, earth removal, is the governing document that we prepared this application under. It's a general bylaw. It's adopted under Chapter 40 of the general laws, and it's independent from and not subject to any of your zoning bylaws under Chapter 40A. This earth removal bylaw controls how earth is to be removed from any zoning district within the town, and in general, it authorized the town to control the entire process of severing that earth from the ground and transporting it to whatever off-site location it may be destined for. As I told you before, the project is a 20.4 acre reservoir. It's an allowed use within the zoning district, and this earth removal is associated with the Cranberry project, and as such, it's not subject to the provisions of the Groundwater Resource Protection District. As far as phasing, the phasing is the area that I talked about that I made a revision to. It, you know, our phasing is going to be predicated on the truck trips that we're allowed to be authorized to use to remove the material. I think typically this committee has granted about a 50 truck trip per day withdrawal rate, which is around 1,250 yards. So in a normal year, 250,000 yards is about what you could remove, assuming you have, say, 210 days of operation during the course of a year. You know, winter weather, holidays, Sundays, things like that would be excluded from the 365-day year. And we use 210 days for this particular exercise. So when it comes to phasing, you know, obviously it'll take a number of years to remove the material. The permit application states that the initial application is for 3 years. We would expect that we would be requesting a 1-year extension. And then I believe at the completion of that 1-year extension, we would be required to come back before the committee with a new earth removal permit. So there wasn't really language to write that in on the application, but we understand what the rules are and understood how they were written in the bylaw, and that's what we would expect to occur. So it will be more than a 4-year project. We're not trying to state in the application that it is a 4-year project. We know just by virtue of the truck trips that it will be a little bit more than 4 years. Sedimentation, erosion control, and dust mitigation measures have been implemented in the design. We have erosion control adjacent to all the wetland areas. Essentially, the entire site is going to be enveloped in erosion control. And as we see things moving forward, one of the things that during the construction of the pond, I'm not sure, you know, I'm sure the committee will have some conditions of approval, how they would desire to move forward. But we're thinking along the lines that we would like to bring it down to a certain elevation, something higher than the water surface elevation, be able to slope all of our side slopes and have a smooth platform to excavate from to complete the excavation into the water table. We're not proposing to de-water for the purpose of constructing this. We're proposing to do a wet excavation. We're going to have to put some material in the piles, let it de-water to some degree, and then load it into trucks and remove it from the site. But there's sufficient area on the site to be able to do that. But that's what the general consensus is in the construction mode, how we would achieve that. As far as dust mitigation, we have a dust mitigation plan that we've submitted. The dust will emanate from the site, from the earth removal activities. It's usually a wind-blown type of sand. It occurs when we're excavating from the face of a bank. It also occurs really on the truck route. So the truck route and the access off the site is really your primary source of dust on a site such as this. Water truck would be manned full-time on the property. Anytime there was a condition that led to dust being generated by truck traffic, we'd be wetting down that roadway surface to mitigate the dust issue. In the event there was dust emanating off the face of the pit where excavation was occurring, we have the ability through the irrigation systems that exist out there with the cranberry bogs to provide irrigation sprinkler types, whether they're similar to what we're using on the bogs or a cannon type of gun to wet the face of the pit to mitigate any dust at the face of the pit. And those are your two primary sources of dust. And the dust mitigation plan, which you've seen before from our office, has worked successfully. I don't know of a site where it has not worked. So I'm going to say that it worked on all the sites. As far as the truck route, we show a truck route that's, let's see, it's shown on sheet number 2 of 3, but the pit area is over here to the west of the site, and there's a series of your bog roads that come out onto Federal Road. So we would just be following those cranberry bog roads out to Federal Road, taking a right onto Federal Road, going down to Route 28 in Wareham, and then from Route 28 in Wareham, they would go, pretty sure they would go right to Route 195 east or west, assuming that the delivery of material is someplace other than in Wareham or Carver, whatever, or the south coast of Massachusetts. So that's the route that we're using to come out onto the site. We were going to request 50 trips a day out of the site, and we were seeking hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to noon on Saturdays. And I think that's similar to what you have granted in the past, but every project is a little different, and that's just what we are looking at the current time. Also, as part of the project, we're required to restore the land that's been disturbed through these activities. The slopes of the slopes adjacent to the pond, they're going to be loamed and seeded. The pond surface will be just that. It'll be a water surface. There'll be no need for restoration on the pond surface. And any of our gravel roads or our roadways that we have around them would be really like 3/4 inch minus sand and gravel, typical bog type of road around the perimeter of the pond and around the site. You can see that we did show a perimeter road around the site. Did that solely for maintenance purposes. In the event we want to cut some grass down there, keep seed stock to a minimum that could find its way into the pond, find its way onto the acreage, requiring more financial resources to manage the crop by having to kill off weeds, unwanted weeds from getting there. We just thought that road would be helpful in providing that kind of access just around the perimeter of the bogs. Above that road is going to be all loamed and seeded. That would all be grass, and down from the road down to the elevation of the pond, that would also be grass, loamed and seeded. The stumps on the site, we're envisioning that what would occur here is that any stumps that we generated on the site, all the material would be knocked out of it. We would use those stumps. It would be bring a commercial stump grinder in. Those stumps would be ground, and then we would use the grindings for either diversion, water diversion, as part of our sedimentation erosion control plan, or slope stabilization. We've found that material, its coarse texture and the nature of it, works pretty well as a slope interim slope stabilization measure. And it also keeps dust down very, very well. So that's another component of our dust mitigation plan that may not be written in the actual physical plan, but when we're doing the construction, that's what we think that would be helpful. And then any excess material on the site with respect to those grindings would be removed from the property and not left there at all. But that's pretty much what the project consists of currently. We show our access road, you know, we show where the main road that we're gonna leave the site from to get on to the cranberry roads that currently exist around the existing acreage. And that's pretty much it. Here's the Deer Run subdivision up here. Those are where all the wells are noted. You can see there's a minimum of 300 feet just by virtue of 2 other lots that were created by E.D. Makepeace to provide separation from the abutting property. So we have 2 150-foot wide lots that run against the property lines of that subdivision, and then we start our work. So the excavation work essentially is all on Makepeace property, and the abutting property, the closest abutting property is in, let's see, there's a property line that comes down right here from Slocum Gibbs Cranberry, and that's the closest abutter to any of the property. That's the Slocum Gibbs Cranberry property land that is there, and our excavation will not be closer than 50 feet at that particular point. And I think the 50 feet is allowed under the bylaw, but we've established ourselves to try to be much more than 100 from the neighboring properties in residential land and not necessarily related cranberry land. So that's pretty much what we have prepared, and we're looking for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm going to open it up to the board for any questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about now before I open it up to a couple of comments from the audience. Mr. Ward, looks like you're dying. Say something here.
I'm thinking this is a pretty complex process and project. And I'm thinking that, and I'm going back to our visitation, I think we need to delegate a little more time than we usually do when we do this visit, because I want to be able to get a picture of all the different elevations and such, and the neighborhood and where it's going to be. And so I just thought that right now I'm kind of looking at this whole picture and saying, okay, now I need to know a little more about all the parts of it.
I think that's probably all of us, because I know I've got a lot of questions about where it is, where it dumps out, stuff like that. So
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that your comment about needing ample time there, I think is something I would want to do anyhow. And to be quite frank, I think it might even be more than one visit. Because we're gonna have to go out there and digest it a little bit, and then think about it and understand it, and then potentially even go back. Because
Yes.
this is a big site, and you are right on the line of the neighborhood there.
What,
So
Bill, what would be the total acreage of the project to prepare your work? I mean, whatever cuts you have to do on vegetation, and so does it cut? The pond itself will be finally 20 acres, right?
The surface water of the pond. yes.
23. But the work area that you're going to have to be working on, how big might that be? Just a guess.
35 and a half acres, Mr. Ward.
35 and a half acres? Okay. So, all right. Yep.
good question.
I don't know as I can ask too many questions at this point. I want to see what this whole project is going to look like. No?
Mr. Harrison or Mr. Shawes or Ms. Richards, you have anything?
There's a lot to digest. Need to really look and see what the proximity of the residential area in regards to the new water hole and getting out to Federal Road to see where it is coming out, where you say all the trucks are going to go right, then very little will be going left, and left will bring more traffic onto Cranberry Road and out that way. So being new to this, I feel it would be an injustice if I made a decision now.
Where exactly on Federal Road is this pit entrance going to be? Is it an existing pit entrance already, or is it a newly developed one?
This one I would consider more newly developed because there was a road that came out onto Federal Road, and I think it was a little more clearing to improve sight distances was done in, that's what, I'll go back to.
I have a question. There was new clearing on Federal Road coming out of one of the existing sites going towards Wareham on the right-hand side.
Yes.
And it's like before the old dump.
Yes.
Plus, there was more clearing done closer to the dump. So whereabouts in there?
Well, I think the landfill it's right across the northern, it's right by the north
End of the landfill, which is closer to Carver.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's identically.
Yeah, there's like an
one
over,
of the locations that you're referring to.
okay.
Okay. One of the things, before we get to audience comments, that I'd like you guys to be thinking of is that you have 3 permits right now that empty onto Federal Road. I believe there's 3 active that are going. You have Reed Custom that's also coming out of there. It's a lot of truck traffic on a single road. I can understand why the residents are here and wanting to chat about it, wanting to understand what's going on. The one thing I'm going to ask you guys to do is to go back over the next several days and really see what we were at. One of the pits that had a very small amount left to do, that still had a 50 load per day permit on it. My personal opinion is that should be finished and closed. That's my opinion. So I'm just one member of a board. But in that regard, if we were to go forward, when I'm not saying we are, but if we were to go forward, that would put more than 200 loaded trucks on that road in a given day under the current scenario. That's why I'm getting to that. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Well, just to help you on that particular item, we are close to closing out that one permit on let's call it on Hammond Street. That's what it is. We have done the existing conditions survey. Now that you have required an as-built plan and a closure document, so we're in the process of doing that, and it's our intention to get it to you sometime this month.
That's spectacular. So thank you for being proactive in that regard.
Are you close? Go
ahead.
Are you close to, is it finished? You're just waiting on the engineering, or
Yeah.
is this something we could maybe go see during our
Let's
visit?
wait till we get to that point. We have no paperwork in front of us.
Wait for the paperwork.
Wait for the
and then-
paperwork, and then we'll, at some point, we'll go out there like we've done in the other past permit closures. We'll go out and inspect and then review it as we see the as-built as in the current plan, and we can go from there.
Okay.
Does the board have anything else for the applicant?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very briefly, and not to, just to expound on one thing that Bill said. This particular area, and you'll see on Saturday, is a critical area for the company for 2 reasons. One, just last year, 60 acres were renovated. I brought the Exhibit A's, right? All Haynes, there's one more Crimson Queen to renovate. And two, I think 2 years ago, it suffered a drought that damaged the crop. And you'll see on the visit, when you look at the existing Golden Pond, like the alternative to this, I guess, was to maybe dredge that pond. That pond is not an appropriate place to dredge. So what we tried to do here, and I'll end with this, is put an appropriately sited and placed, auxiliary water supply, I think inadequately far enough away from private drinking wells and 125 feet away from any resource area. But again, you'll see that on Saturday. I won't be there, but thank you.
Well, thank you. I don't know is Saturday okay with you, Mr. Madden, for us?
Yes, no
Okay.
problem with me.
And feel free to bring whoever else you need with you from the company or any of your hydrologists or whatever that you feel necessary to bring.
And if there's anything that you in specific would like to see staked in the field out there, I can do my best to try to get it. So, I mean, might have to think of that kind of quickly. But, I think the entrance, certainly I'll stake that, the truck entrance, so there's no misunderstanding about where that's to occur and what have you. And, if there's anything else that comes up, we're happy to do that as well.
The only thing I can think of is exactly that, the truck entrance and public safety going forward on that. We'll be able to walk the limit of work up against the Deer Hill Lane side, I would hope. And at that point, I can't think of anything else that we might need staked, but I'm open, I'm all ears here. Okay. All right. This is, in fact, the start of an open public hearing. I'm going to entertain some questions. I'm going to entertain some comments. And if you can, bear with us. Just please bear with us. I know this is going to be a long process. We haven't seen the site. We can't really answer any questions. So what I'm hopeful of is that we can be respectful, we can be quick, and then we can come back and revisit the stuff in a subsequent meeting. With that, Attorney Sheehan, I guess you've got a video that you'd like to share with us?
Well, Ms. Dormer would like to go first, because she has to do, since it's such an inconvenient time of day for people to hold a public.
I am sorry about that, and I explained why we were doing it at 3 o'clock. So if we were started at 4 o'clock, you'd be really not be inconvenienced then. So, Ms. Dormer, I'll give you a couple minutes.
Should I sit
Yes,
down?
please. And, yep. I would not stray too far, gentlemen. I'm going to bet there's going to be something you guys are going to need to answer, because we, the board, just can't yet. You may, yes. Just state your name, if you would.
Mary Dormer, 162 Plymouth Street. I just have a couple of comments that I want to make. I've been to several of these meetings, and I'm always talking about how important it is to protect the water, because we do live on a sole source aquifer. And one of the things that I keep getting back from people is that Makepeace owns the land. Makepeace does own the land, but that sand that they're pulling out at an alarmingly fast rate is federally protected with the aquifer. It is part of the aquifer. And I think we need to take a step back, and I think we really need to look at what's happening, because it is getting contaminated. And when it does get contaminated to the point where it needs to be cleaned up, that's going to be on all the residents of this town. It's not, the federal government is not going to step in and help us if we contaminate it. And with the EPA lowering the levels of the PFAS, 2 of them are toxic, are on the toxic list. That means that it's CERCLA and the Safe Drinking Water Act. And we really need to protect this aquifer. I mean, Mr. Ward was on the committee. I'm sure he can speak about how important the sand is to filtering our aquifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. Beetling?
A couple comments. Joe Beedling, Meadow Street. I wanted to respond to
a couple of things that Mr. Madden said, one being the wind-blown sand. I know for a fact, it's not gonna be blowing just during excavation. It's gonna be blowing until that site is hydroseeded, the entire thing. It's going to force abutters to keep their windows closed. It's going to force them to stay inside when the wind is blowing really bad. If there's any rock crushing over there, it's gonna be so damn loud, they're not gonna be able to go outside. As far as the hours, I don't know what trucking company is gonna be hauling out of there, but I suggest that you make their hours from 7:30, because trucking company that was doing the site next door, they were always over there about 6:30, 20 to 7, before the 7 o'clock opening hour. So, I mean, you gotta protect the people here. These abutters came to this town because of the atmosphere. And reservoirs are popping up all over the place, almost as quick as these pot shops and pizza places and liquor stores. I mean, it's becoming all too normal. What about the people? Don't we matter?
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Tomaso?
My name is Gail DeTomaso, and I live at 2C Meadowbrook Way. I was hoping that any new permit issued would have contingencies written into it for video cameras, and I would like to see that, especially on a project of this size, before the permit is issued. I'd also like to see some system to verify that the material taken from this site is used for agricultural purposes. I know it's stated to be such, but how is that verified? That might be another thing for your permit, along with the video cameras. Again, a project of this size that the town's gonna have for 4 or 5 years, I think the people would appreciate these 2 items to be included. Any dust mitigation, I think, has to be written into the plan, not assumed. Our sound barriers, I've heard sound barriers are supposed to go into permits, but haven't. I heard nothing about a sound barrier. And 100 feet, and my math could be wrong, 100 feet's 33 yards. It's a third of a football field. That's awfully close, without any sound barriers. And Hammond Street is a street that I frequent. Is there going to be interference with the public use of that street? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the audience? Yes, sir?
My name is Larry Lewis, and I live at 10 Jefferson Way in Carver. My wife and I have a place in Cranberry Village, and I've spoken to this committee before earlier in the year when and I testified that I had been walking in the woods and I found these ribbons on the trees that said clear cut to this point. The clear cut has actually taken place now, and the sand mining has begun, and the topsoil has been stripped away, and all that's left in most of this plateau that was clear cut is now sand. And at the moment, there are like large kind of pyramids of sand in the bottom of the existing pit, which is 90 feet deep. And the trucks that go out there every day, they're coming and going, that I meet along Federal Road whenever I drive there, they're hauling that sand out. When that sand has been hauled out, they're going to start carving away at the plateau that exists. And when they finish carving that away, the end result is going to be less than 150 feet from Cranberry Village. Cranberry Village is a residential area of people over 55, and as I said before, like, I'm quite a bit older than that. And the health issues and the stress and the noise that is coming our way is pretty much going to impact all of our lives. And the feeling that I and my wife have now is that our fear level is rising, that all these factors are going to impact our lives beyond the point of tolerance, meaning that, you know, it will be really unhealthy for us to be there. And some of the people in Cranberry Village, and I don't know if residents are going to be testifying this afternoon or not about this, but I know that some of the people who live closer to Federal Road are getting dust drifting into their places at the moment. And there might be other people who are experiencing that in other places in the village that I don't know about. But it just feels like this is another example of, well, profits before people. At the last meeting that I attended here, afterwards, I spoke to the attorney from Makepeace, and I caught him outside here in the hallway, and I said, I have a question. Can you answer this for me? And I said, in your business plan, are you finding a balance between the welfare of people and running a profitable business? And he said, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you about that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. I'll take Brett in the back.
How you doing? Brett Meredith, 91 Tremont Street. I'd just like to say I'm going to butter to the roads project directly behind me and the Pontiff project directly in front of me. And I've had no problems. You guys, as the board, have done a great job in placing rules and regulations in place. And I just want to let you guys know that, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take one or two more comments from the back, and then Attorney Sheehan, we do have one more of these to do today. It's a very cursory open session, and we have a whole other application to get through that you guys are going to want to speak to too. And I know your video is...
Well, I mean, you have to let people speak.
I am.
It's a public hearing, so everyone who's here has a right to speak.
Mr. Chairman, that is actually not accurate.
Thank you.
Because this is going to be continued. You've announced numerous times that this public hearing will be continued.
Thank you.
So people have to come back.
Yes.
In the middle of the day, another day.
When there's
That-
work to be working.
Your chisel...
And are they going to repeat the presentation?
They will, and you've seen it in the past, and you are chiseling into comments, by the way. So, one in the back, I'm sorry. You can come right up to the front if you'd like.
Hi, my name is Stephen Keaton. I live at Copper Lantern Lane. I just moved here in December, and one of the reasons I moved to Carver was the rural nature of the community and the beautiful trees and cranberry bogs and scenery. I'm not sure really what all of this is about, except that where I live, sitting out on my porch or even in my kitchen or living room, you know, I can hear beeping from trucks and whirring and noises, and, you know, that's bothersome. And, you know, when I look out on my patio, I want to see the trees and the cranberry bogs. I think a lot of people live in this community and visit for that reason. And, you know, I don't want to see big piles of sand and trucks coming in and out. And, you know, I just think we should preserve the land, leave it alone, leave the cranberry bogs, grow the cranberry bogs, grow the cranberries, but not disturb the land and, you know, cause noise and pollution to the air, dust, and effects on the water.
Thank you for your comments. In the back, in the striped shirt.
My name's Linda Jacobs, and I live at 41 Piper's Way in Cranberry Village. And I don't have anything dramatic to say. I'm actually here to ask for a moratorium on the sand mining so that it can be studied. Not just, the earth removal plans, but the whole operation of sand mining and how it's affecting our area, how it's affecting the wildlife, the waters, the people who live here. I mean, it's just an enormous operation. I've seen many photographs, aerial photographs, of places that were pine barrens and also cranberry bogs that are a wasteland. It's a wasteland. And I just think that it needs to stop for a period of time to have a good deal of study. There's so many of us who are asking for that so that we can live here in a healthy way. Sometimes I go out of my house, I'm something like 800 feet or something away from the pit mine, and it's loud. I made a recording, and I would have to hold it up to the mic, but it doesn't amplify the sound for us. There's humming and beeping, and when I hear it, I think about all the creatures that are being dug up and the aquifer that's threatened. It's an emotional thing. I mean, perhaps it's also threatening my health, I don't know, but it's just a very unsettling, upsetting way to live. And I'm more an emotional person than an analytical person, so from my point of view, it's upsetting, but from somebody else's, it might be, scientific. So there's a lot of reasons to stop and to study it and to see what kind of effect it's having on our area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll take the woman in the back, and then we can get to Attorney Sheehan's video.
Well, we're not going to show the video because we'd rather give the time to people
Okay.
who are here to speak.
Thank you very much.
Can I was...
No, you can go next after the lady up front.
Hello, my name is Amy Merriam. I live in Cranberry Village. I live on 14 Lincoln Circle, which is going to be across the street from this new permit. Right now, I moved to Carver and in Cranberry Village specifically because of the trees in the middle of the woods. My dream is to live in a log cabin on a lake. I'm 66 years old. That's not going to happen. So this is as close as I can get. This is my forever home, and there's 280 other homes in that park, that this is probably their forever home. This is our last home. I used to be able to see a solid bank of trees across the street from my house and up the hill. I can see air through them now. I can see sky. And this permit is going to make it even closer. I'm going to be able to see the corner. I'm going to be able to see the digging because they're coming that close to my house. The thought, okay, well, I'll just move. No one's going to want to buy a house that's across from a sand mine. So you're you're decreasing the property value of the whole park, but also each individual home that we own. We bought this park in the middle of the woods, and now you're taking the woods away. And it's going to affect our health. We're all seniors. We all have issues, health issues. We also used to be CEOs. We used to be store managers. We used to be productive citizens. But now we're in a senior park. Seniors are kind of like, we don't need them anymore. They're not productive anymore. So we can just dig right next to them. But that's not fair. You're ruining our property values and you're ruining our health with coming even closer. Never mind the noise. And 7 o'clock is ridiculous to be woken up by truck traffic in my home. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Chair, I think we got a point of order here.
Yes.
Briefly, I after hearing about 3 different folks who I think I know where they live are talking, I think they think that this is a different location.
I haven't been there yet, so
Understood.
I'm not sure either, which is why I wanted this to be a cursory meeting, and it's turning into something more than that.
Understood. Just as a comment then, where we're talking is nowhere near Cranberry Village. So I don't know what kind of misinformation's been promulgated prior to this meeting, but if you had read the application, this is maybe, I don't know, half a mile away to the south and on the other side of the solar farm, so
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarification.
We are taking their sand.
So, do we have anybody else? I'm sorry, go ahead. Come on up. Oh, I'm sorry, you are next. Can you get right up to the podium, please?
Rachel Atkins, I just was going to be the person that played the video. There was a few of us who were going to give up our 2 minutes. And I just want to request that it gets put on the agenda for next meeting, because we heard lots of it can't be played if it's not on the agenda, et cetera. And if we could just use a thumb drive and use this equipment, it would be helpful.
I have no idea how to work that thing, just so you know. I'll ask IT if they can have somebody come in and do that.
Okay.
You might want to bring it on a laptop and plug into an HDMI or something like that.
Okay. Well,
Might be a little bit easier.
We'd need a screen, but I just wanted to put that
If you
out.
can, in the next, before 48 hours, if you can submit a written request to be on the agenda, as long as it's 48 hours or greater, you will absolutely be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Mr. Manuel, can you see us behind the sign?
Sorry, so no, we could not. Mr. Ward?
Steve Ward, 46 Miles Stanchett Drive. I just want to say, over the past year, you guys have worked your butts off, and how much I appreciate how hard you worked. I think you're going through a great process. You're listening to everyone. You are doing the best you can to resolve any issues, and I just want you guys to know how much it's appreciated, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you, Steve.
It's not really the point.
It's your father, right? Mr. Ward's your father?
That's true, and that's enough. No, we don't need any peanut gallery comments. So I'm sorry, in the back?
Hello, my name is Catherine Harrelson. I'm with Community Land and Water Coalition, which is a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization, and I'm here tonight to speak about drinking water. For background information, I have 18 years' experience in the environmental industry, including 5 years doing nothing but monitoring well sampling and the management of 5 separate monitoring well sampling teams across the tri-state area, in addition to teams of NPDES wastewater samplers. In addition to that, I have a master's degree in applied geosciences and a professional certificate in wetlands delineation. So I'd like to speak about the information that the applicant supplied about drinking water, and I'd like to call into question some of the conclusions. On page 4, the applicant states, 9 domestic drinking water wells exist approximately 650 feet west of the project site in the Deer Hill residential subdivision. The applicant goes on to state, the project is not likely to have an adverse effect to these wells. The information that the applicant bases this conclusion on is a report from the USGS, which was published in 1992. That's over 30 years ago. I'd like to point out the fact that there has been massive earth removal off of Federal Road in the 30 years since 1992, mostly by the hands of the applicant. I'd like to call attention to a document that I know that most of the members of the ERC have read. This is an affidavit by senior hydrologist Scott Horsley, submitted to Plymouth County Superior Court. In paragraph 13, he states, and this is an affidavit submitted where he particularly studied 3 Makepeace developments on Federal Road, including the one, this present one, on 539 Federal Road. Paragraph 13 states, the site plans show agricultural projects to be located on areas with varying topography. Permits state that the total volume of earth removal from 3 sites is close to 8 million cubic yards. This earth removal entails removing trees, vegetation, and excavation of earth materials that lowers the elevation of the land's surface and depth to the water table. This results in permanent change to the pre-existing conditions and permanent changes in the surface contours of the land. This has happened since the 1992 report that the applicant used to base their conclusions about the groundwater hydrology at the site. So we cannot rely upon a 1992 report in order to determine that the groundwater flows in a southeastern direction and away from the 9 residential drinking water wells in the Deer Hill neighborhood. Furthermore, the USGS has issued a second report since 1992, which draws a different conclusion about the regional direction of groundwater flow in southeastern Massachusetts. This report was issued in 2009, and there are 2 separate figures which show the regional groundwater direction is in the southwestern direction in the area of the project site. Again, this was not a site-specific study. It's a regional groundwater study. It's a regional groundwater model. But I can point out the place in this report where it says the regional groundwater flow direction is in the southwesterly direction, which would be towards the Deer Hill neighborhood. Furthermore, I'd like to state that there are 3 public water supply wells within 2,500 feet of the project site. The applicant states that there are no Zone 2 wellhead protection areas, but I could not personally find the Zone 2 wellhead protection areas for these public water supplies in publicly available resources online. The applicant did not provide this information to the ERC, and so it is my opinion that the ERC does not have the information about where the Zone 2 wellhead protection areas for these wells are located because it was not supplied by the applicant and it's not available online. So we cannot come to the conclusion that, based on the information that I have today at this public hearing, that the Zone 2 wellhead protection areas for these public water supply wells don't extend into the project water site. So I believe the ERC cannot come to the conclusion today to support the statement in the application that drinking water won't be impacted by this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody's hands up. Ms. Sheehan? Going to ask you to keep it brief.
So I've got my watch on.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Meg Sheehan. I'm an attorney with over 40 years of environmental law experience. I've been representing pro bono residents in Carver who are currently and have been harmed by the decisions of the Earth Removal Committee. I have sat here since 2021 and attended almost every Earth Removal Committee meeting, more than many of the new members of the board. I have listened to the sand and mining gravel industry present half-truths and misrepresentations to this committee, and I have seen the committee go along with that. And this project right here, this application, is a prime example. So this is in the heart of AD Makepeace's 2.1 square mile sand mining sacrifice zone in an environmental justice community in South Carver. As the residents have testified, and as you well know, people are suffering from the impacts of wind-blown sand, and they cannot open their windows or turn on their air conditioning in the summer because sand is blowing off these sites. It is carcinogenic silica sand, and if Makepeace would like to dispute that, please provide the air monitoring tests, which they have never done. This permit needs to be denied. This is part of an 85-acre sand mine at 59 Federal Road. You know darn well where the entrance is because allegedly you have conducted site visits here. So this is to expand the project that you first approved in 2020 under the exact same plans, and this is just one of the phases. The sand mining at this location at 59 Federal Road on map 131 started in 2016 with the unpermitted removal of sand and gravel for the solar project that's there. That's 50 acres. Then Makepeace proceeded without a permit in 2020, which they admit in their 2020 permit began without a permit. Then at the height of COVID in 2020, there was a hearing at the middle school where no one was really informed and probably couldn't have come to because they were under the COVID lockdown. But Mr. Harrison, Mr. Ward, and the other members of the committee rapidly approved that permit, which is the second largest earth removal permit in Plymouth County at 4 million cubic yards, worth about $56 million. So this is just an expansion of that. And when I came to your meeting in April, Mr. Bentley was sitting there while he was a member of this committee, and you allowed the expansion of this project, calling it just an advancement of 20 feet. I have listened to you misrepresent time and again what these projects are about. They do not meet the definition of the Superior Court and the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts of necessary and incidental agricultural excavation. This is 2 square miles of sand mining. Why would you even consider letting these bogs be built, this pond be built for bogs that are not yet constructed?
Thank you for your comments.
Well, this is a 10-year earth removal
Thank you for your
mine
comments.
at this location, and this is a massive misrepresentation.
Thank you for your comments. What I'd like to do is continue this meeting to our next meeting, which is November the 5th at 3 o'clock in this meeting room number 1. We will continue this meeting until then.
That's election day.
That's when our agent can be here. We've had this discussion before. We already approved the meeting date. That's where it's going to be.
Excuse me, Mr. Hamblin. Can I just ask you a quick question? The meeting times are at a very inconvenient time at 3 o'clock. For those people who are in this neighborhood and are working to pay their mortgages, I'm sure they would love to attend these meetings. And I do know somebody in the Deer Hill neighborhood who has PFAS in their water and taking away as the NRCS.
So your comments are very well heard.
I'm not done, I'm sorry. As the USDA and the NRCS.
So if you want to talk about the meeting time,
Okay, but
that's
I'm
fine.
just saying that as the NRCS and
If you want to talk about the
USDA
meeting time,
says about.
thank you very much.
removal,
This meeting of
I
the
think it's important.
the open meeting for the 80 Makepeace Company has been continued until the next November 5th. I need a motion. Roger
So moved.
I will second that motion.
and Mr. Ward, continued to November 5th. Any discussion about continuing the meeting from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It is unanimous, Carol. I know. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll see you, at the very least, Bill, on Saturday morning. And like I said, anybody from the company that you want to have there with you that can help us kind of understand. I know Mike. Oh, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Amy, how do I recuse myself and pass the torch to Roger? Okay. Okay. All right, so if you guys can hold it down in the back, we are not done. We've got another application to get through. As the general manager of the fruit door company at Deacon's Cranberry, they have the next item on the agenda. I am passing the torch to Mr. Shores, who is our vice chair, and I would anticipate you giving him all the courtesy that you've shown me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Move that over. Move that over.
Let's go see this. All right, folks. So I'm going to open this public hearing of the Fruit Dior Real Estate for permit of earth removal located off Mayflower Road, Carver, Assessors Parcels 122-18, 122-10, 122-2, 122-4, and 5-2. There will not be any public comments for this session. We will open it up. This will be continued to next week, as this is the first time the board has seen this documentation. What's that?
Continue next month.
Next month. The next meeting, I say next week.
You haven't made any of the plans available to anybody.
Well, we've just seen them right now, Attorney Sheehan, so we will put public comments off until next week, until next meeting.
When you're not giving the public any of the plans. He's going to go over them right now.
We're going to go over them now, and on the 5th, we will have another public hearing, and we will allow comments then.
And really, what am I going to sit here and read them? No, I don't. I'm not going to sit here and read them while you're having a public hearing. This is why the public hearing is being continued, because this is just a preliminary introduction of the project.
If you wait, they'll be presented to you, Ms. Sheehan.
Well, you should have had, you knew last meeting that this was a pending permit. You shouldn't be holding the hearing until you can make the plan.
Can you keep your comments down, please?
No.
Please.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Board. My name is Craig Medeiros, and I'm the attorney for Fruit Dior U.S. Real Estate Corp., who is both the applicant and the owner of the property off of Mayflower Road, which is the subject of this earth removal application. I do have Daniel Gagne from Beals & Thomas, who is the project engineer with me here today. If you do have any technical or engineering questions, please feel free to interrupt me and ask Daniel about those at any time. As you can see from, Daniel just presented the green cards to the board. As you can see from the application and associated plans, our request is to allow for earth removal from the premises in conjunction with the construction of an agricultural reservoir to be used as a primary water source.
Please, please.
And also as the sole source of tailwater recovery in conjunction with the use of the existing cranberry bogs of the property. So again, it is going to be a primary water source, not a supplemental water source. One of the benefits of this project is to only utilize Dunham Pond, which is currently utilized as a primary water source, as a supplemental water source at the site. Including for tailwater recovery, no more tailwater recovery will be utilized for Dunham Pond. In terms of details, the proposed work will involve clearing approximately 10.5 acres of land. In terms of disturbance, any treed area will be chipped, stumped, and trucked off-site. The total proposed material to be removed is 640,000 yards. In terms of project location, one benefit of this project, it is located centrally on the site, very distant from any abutters. It is literally surrounded by cranberry bogs as well as Dunham Pond itself. So it does offer a very significant barrier in terms of disturbance to neighbors in the community. We believe this agricultural reservoir construction will both support the maintenance, operation, and improvement of the cranberry bog by offering a consistent water supply. Dunham Pond, although it is 40 acres, is very shallow. The cranberry bog maintenance and operation currently at the site does result in a significant amount of drainage from Dunham Pond during flooding season. It also improved water quality in Dunham Pond, as no more tailwater will be dumped into Dunham Pond going forward. Dunham Pond is a mapped National Heritage area, whereas the work we are performing is not in a National Heritage area and not in an area delineated as bordering vegetated wetlands. I do have Daniel Gagne again here to go over any technical details that you guys may have questions about, and he'd happy to go over the plans with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We want them to go through this, or we want to ask our questions?
Yeah, we might as well have them present it, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's much, bring us at least, give us an overview of the plan, what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it.
So, just for familiarity on the site, this is Dunham Pond. This is the subject property. This area here, the street area between existing bogs, that's where we're looking to install this new agricultural pond. Pond will be excavated, Hall Road, generally following existing bog roads out to Mayflower Road. Mayflower Road has two options to leave. We can go out to the left to Tremont Street, take a right, head out, and we can head over to Route 28 as well.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes. Yeah, she's asking if you can speak up. Yeah.
I can try. So on this aerial sheet, we show our temporary staging areas. We have some existing cleared areas that we're looking to lay down and work in. And then As we move on to the further sheets, you'll see the pond area here. Looking to cut in a new connecting bog road here, and then this area here is where the pond continues on. Currently, no pumping apparatus proposed. That'll be during the future procedure. And then we looked at the USGS and RCS maps, and again, coarse sands is what we find in this area. We're looking to dig this pond down to elevation 62 in this area with a estimated surface water elevation of 92, so it's a fairly deep pond. Excavation methods, we haven't worked with the contractor to develop if that's going to be either wet or dewatered at this time.
I think that would be important for us to know. Before we would make any approvals, we would want to know that. You guys have questions? Do you want to
How deep
position
did you
this?
say you're estimating on the?
I think the groundwater is 62, and it's currently 92, so.
So you're talking 30 feet deep?
It's about, going to be about 30 deep, 30-foot deep pond, yes.
Mayflower Road's no stranger to earth removal permits. In the past, this committee has not allowed trucks to go towards Tremont Street. The end of that road is very narrow, especially now with the Yogi Bear Park adjacent to the intersection. I think it would be nightmarish to send trailer trucks out that direction.
Sure.
Being
We'd be
personally
open to whatever, even if you wanted to stagger it in terms of some trucks towards Tremont or some
Yep.
towards Route 58. Either way, whatever the board's
I'm not the
priority is
decision
fine.
maker, I'm just
Yeah.
a little historical. I live around the corner, very familiar with the property, well aware of the fluctuation in Dunham's Pond in relation to the cranberry agriculture around it. That's why we've encouraged Mr. Rhodes and his project on the other side of the pond. So I do think this project here dovetails to that to make Dunham's Pond what it should be. Just preliminary, I see the exit route. You have the trucks exiting right at the hill on Mayflower Road. Traditionally, they've come out around the next corner, down around the pylons where there's clear visibility in both directions. That would be another personal recommendation. And then it's a fair-sized project. I don't see any note to phasing it any which way.
That's a no.
I'd also, I'd encourage phasing a project like this, not to deforest it all at once, not to strip it all at once. That just brings rise to more dust issues. The economy's still cranking along, but heaven forbid it come to a screeching halt. We don't want to be left with a big sore in the ground that we're stuck with. So I think phasing a project this size would be appropriate. The proximity to homes, I mean, it's in the middle of cranberry land, I mean, right in the heart of it. There have been some issues historically with some of the other water holes with neighbors having issues with their wells, and that's really my concern in regards to whether you propose to dig this wet or dry. You know, digging it wet, I understand, is slow and not as efficient as pumping it down and seeing what you're digging, but it also brings rise to concerns with neighbors' wells that we've run into, this committee's run into on other projects. So dust and water are two concerns. I think phasing the project would help eliminate some of the dust issue. Crow's Nest Lane and the houses out along Tremont, I think, would be the most susceptible to any issue. So just keep that in mind. Dust mitigation and concerns with neighbors' wells. Other than that, it's really, it's going to require a site visit to really understand what the scope of the project is. And
Are you available this Saturday?
Yes, I'm available on Saturday.
Okay.
all right. So those are my initial observations, concerns, I guess, that I'd like you all to start considering, thinking about, keeping in line with permits that we've given on that road prior.
I agree with you with the phasing, John. It's a good point, especially, if you do the math that they did off the last project, you're looking at 50 truckloads a day, 300,000 yards a year. You're going to have to separate this into two as you're thinking about it. But we can come down on Saturday and talk more and understand more about what you have going on.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments?
So you're going to negotiate the permit on
I had a question about, you mentioned pumping apparatus, and you weren't ready to present that, or it wasn't part of this initial?
It's not part of the earthwork application for pumping.
Okay. So you're advocating that this will divorce you of Dunham's Pond, which you now pump out of. So where does that water that you're pumping out of Dunham's Pond now going to come from?
No, presumably it's going to come out of the new pond. Like I said, the only reason to utilize Dunham Pond would be as a supplementary source in case.
Right,
we ran
right.
dry
And I
in
understand you
this
still have the legal ability to withdraw from Dunham's Pond.
Correct.
But, to advertise this project as divorcing yourself as Dunham's Pond, I'd like to see a commitment that some pumping apparatus would go in this water hole, so we're not just left with a unused water hole at the end of this. This is the whole.
Agreed.
So, wearing my cranberry grower hat. So, that's all.
My comment on the project, we need to see more. We need to look at the site. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
Okay. Dick, you have any?
I exactly agree with Judy. I would like to, when we do a visit, have a better idea of how this all fits together.
Okay. All right, then, hearing any other comments? No other comments, I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
No, to continue.
Continue, sorry.
I'll make a
Need
motion to continue the public hearing on Fruit Dior Real Estate, permit application, assessors parcel 122-18, 122-10, 122-2, 122-4, and 5-5, 5-2, I apologize, until next meeting, November 5th at 3 o'clock.
Okay, motion by John. Do I hear a second?
Second, I'll second that.
Second by Mike.
Yes.
Can you estimate what time we should be asking these folks to be there?
9.
If we're gonna do it
If we're meeting at that, no, I don't think so. Between 9 and 10, for sure.
Go set at 9:30.
We'll shoot for that.
Yeah, with two site visits scheduled that morning, not knowing exactly how long that first one's going to take.
Can you just make sure, Carol, someone has a number we can text or something?
Yeah. But I think an hour and a half would be a safe bet.
Okay.
All right.
And now we vote.
So now, we need a vote on that then. A vote on continuing this public hearing.
Okay, I'll put the motion forward to continue the public hearing for this application of Fruit Dior's on Mayflower Road until next meeting, November 5th.
You have a second?
I second that.
Judy, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Judy?
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous?
Carol, did I get one of these?
No, so I'll accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll close the public.
That does not close. There will be public comments at the next meeting. I've opened that up at the beginning, yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's Earth Removal Committee meeting at 4:52.
I second that motion.
Judy,
To adjourn
second.
the
All in
meeting.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks.